Not everything this year has gone exactly the way we planned it, and especially when it comes to those Italian plum tomatoes. They've been a bit of a pain since day one with that blossom end rot, but we have treated them with CalMag and we're now starting to get tomatoes that's ripening. I'll just quickly show you the progress of those plants. So you can see we've got some healthier looking plants in here now, and they're full of bunches of these Italian plum tomatoes, some of which are ripening, but more so over here. This one is basically ready to harvest. It's an amazing red colour and all the rest are following suit. And there's no more blossom end rot. That's really good news. It's not going to be too much longer before we harvest some of these. There is, however, one other problem, and that's exactly where this container tomato plant stood, that once again is ready to be harvested. We'll do that shortly. But that wasn't always there. This is the plant that Charlotte was talking about that first got blossom end rot, and we treated that and it only had a few tomatoes on it, but the leaves on the plant itself just kept curling up, and no matter what I did it never seemed to get any better. So by impulse I just pulled it out and put this in its place. Unfortunately, this is that plant. If you see how the leaves have gone, even though we pulled it out of ground yesterday, the leaves didn't look much better than that. It just wasn't getting any better, and it's not even a really tall plant either. But more to the point, on top there was probably 2 flowers. So no more flowers were growing, so we weren't going to get any more fruit anyway. So I decided to call it a day with that plant and move on. But what I did a few weeks ago, if you saw that video, I took quite a few of those Italian plum tomatoes off of a different plant that had got blossom end rot, because I thought if it gets any worse we could end up with nothing. So in that situation I think it's better for me personally to just take the tomatoes off, or at least some of them, and try and ripen them indoors off the vine. And that's what we've been doing in this box. We basically took a bunch of tomatoes like that, no blossom end rot on them, but really green and quite hard as well. And I've also took them off that plant I've just chucked outside to do the same thing with. But in this box we've got some tomatoes we did maybe 2 weeks ago, and there was the same colour as those. And what I did is I put these tomatoes in a box with a banana, which is now overripe. And as these bananas ripen, they give off a gas which encourages other fruits to ripen. Basically, we've gone from those green tomatoes in a couple of weeks to these ones. No blossom end rot. They're all ripening really nicely. And all I've done is put them in that box with that banana, put some brown paper over the top, and just left them under the stairs because it's always dark. And we've got tomatoes ripening. There's another one in here as well that's also well on its way. So that has worked brilliant. While I was trimming all these plants the other day, I knocked quite a few tomatoes off by mistake. It's easily done, and I'm sure everybody's done it. So I've ended up with a bunch of cherry tomatoes that are also green. So inside this box with these tomatoes that are showing signs of ripening, they go in the same place. And so will these ones that I've took off that plant that we've thrown away. I'll just spread them out at the bottom of that box. Even these small ones. And we'll pop that banana back in there. and this paper back over the top, and they'll go back in house, back on the stairs until everyone is a really nice deep red. That way we're not losing any tomatoes. Even if we have lost the plant, we can ripen them as cells off the vine. So even though that didn't go quite as planned for that particular plant, we still managed to save all the fruit and we're ripening it as cells. So we're going to lose nothing in end except another wave of tomatoes growing. But when you consider there were no flowers growing on that plant anyway, I think basically we've gained and lost nothing. And talking of harvesting things, when they come ripe, I've got a couple of things in garden that I'm going to go and get now. So we're back in this greenhouse now, where we've got all these peppers. These are right tall plants, and there's another one there. We still haven't got a ripe pepper, but it is undamaged, so we're leaving that be. But we've come in here for this cucumber, because once again, as much as Marie's going to eat it, we've got more cucumbers that's ready to harvest. So a quick twist of those, and we've got some more cucumbers to pickle, and they're a really good size as well. I'll take those all day. We'll pop those in his basket because we've got other things to get as well. But this plant's also got another one right there, and that's a good size. The plant's done really well. So let's move on. Another thing that's really good to see is this Jack Be Little pumpkin plant. It's now growing out of control. It's a huge plant and it's got loads and loads of flowers on it. But what's even better is it's now got even more baby pumpkins on it. There's one there, there's another one there, and there's one there as well. So that plant's doing really well. Meanwhile, there's more and more cherry tomatoes to pick. And while they're ripe, you've got to keep picking them. Just to ensure that the ones that are still on this plant have a chance to ripen. But these cherry falls, cherry tomatoes, are really nice and sweet. It's going to be the first thing on my list of seeds for next year. We've got more on this container one as well. Just keep taking them off. There's one right at top again there. In fact, there's around 3 at the look of it. So we'll get all of those today. Brilliant. And this one that we've put just here in place of that plant that we ripped out is now full. Once again, a ripe cherry tomatoes. I can do this all day. And I'll still say these are best ones. These tiny little ripe tomatoes, they're like eating sweets. So nice. Let's get all these off here. And I've just spotted another one right there. One of those tiny little ones. And then we've got even more at the back. Brilliant harvests of tomatoes this year. And I hope Lee has loads of success with his, because he does tend to get a lot of blossom end rot. But he says so far so good after giving him a bit of a treatment. So fingers crossed for Lee that he gets a really good harvest this year. And now we'll go back down to this container garden, because we've still got these onions in this container, and now they've all completely fell over, so we'll take some of those while we're here. And these won't be left to dry out, we can pop them straight in the fridge to use in the next few days. I'm taking them all out today. So a really nice bunch of onions. And now we can reuse this container for something else. I've also got more blueberries that are ready for picking. Not that I ever get any of these, because Ginny loves them in her smoothies. So the more they ripen, the more we'll pick them. There's a nice size one just over here. Oops, wrong one. My bad. That's a good size one. And I've also got some romaine lettuce. And I'm not growing this for an arting lettuce. I'm just growing it so we can get a nice bunch of leaves from it. So I'm going to take one of these as well, and I'm going to take the old plant. I'm going to cut it off right at the bottom. If I leave that bit in, that will start to sprout no leaves. Well, that's enough lettuce for me for today. Brilliant. I've also got this container and we're growing beet leaves in it. There's also a couple of random carrots in that as well. But that makes a nice colourful little salad when we cut them. Pickling onions coming along nicely. And so are those white Lisbon spring onions. We've got loads more tomatoes on this plant, but I'm not taking any more of those today because we've got loads in the fridge, so I'll leave them to go a bit deeper red. But I think this one's getting ready to be harvested. Again, we've got that discoloration in leaves, but I know there's carrots under here because I can see tops. And these are only supposed to be grown as baby carrots anyway, so over the next couple of days I might empty that one and see how many carrots we get out of that little wash bowl. So even though everything is not going exactly as planned, we can't moan at what we're getting virtually on a daily basis now. All that free homegrown food. Nice big cucumbers, a bunch of onions, loads more cherry tomatoes, a really nice lettuce, and of course that handful of very welcome blueberries. So it's just more free food to go in fridge and loads more growing. Meanwhile, what we deem as a failure has actually been turned around by putting them in that box and keeping them somewhere dark. And that's resulted in us getting quite a lot of ripening Italian plum tomatoes that we thought we were going to lose. So if you get some plants that are looking a bit tired, or even when it comes to end of season and things stop growing, you've always got the option of harvesting everything if your tomatoes are not quite ripe or even still green. And you can use them to make chutney, which we've got a recipe for on our cooking channel, and believe me, it tastes amazing. So if you're interested in that, the link to cooking channel's in description, so pop over and take a look at that. But you could also just leave them in these boxes, and then in a month's time you're going to have loads and loads of really ripe, fresh, homegrown tomatoes to add to everything else you'll be harvesting at that time. Anyway, thank you very much for being part of the channel, I really appreciate it. And we've got one or two bits and bobs we'll be doing over the weekend, so if you're interested in seeing that, hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell, and I'll see you then. Take care.